Hi, and welcome to Beginning Programming. This is the fourth session, and this is a session in which I want to look at doing some lazy loading for your controllers. So basically, lazy loading is loading on demand. So when you need a controller, especially when you want to load a view, then you get the JavaScript file from the server. So let's start by looking at how we're going to do that. The last time we looked at our application, we had a main controller and a home controller, and in the core module we had defined some routes. Now, there are a few steps that need to be taken when you want to get to this lazy loading. And the first thing is that when you look at your options or your definition which you pass into one of these routes, you can pass a few other properties, but the most important one for lazy loading is the resolve property, which is an object, and here we can define a load function, which again has the option for you to pass in a few dependencies. So we can load our $Q. And Q is just a simplified version of big Q, which is a promise library for JavaScript. So basically what this load function does is, as long as it has a promise pending, it will not try to resolve your controller for your view. So in the /home route, I'm now going to load my home controller. So what am I going to do? I'm going to create a deferred, which is $Q.defer. It's a function on your $Q. And I'm going to return deferred.promise. And here we're going to require my home controller. So modules/core/controller/home controller. And once this is done, we are simply going to say that our deferred can resolve. We're not going to pass it any parameters. We're just going to say, okay, now you're done with the loading. One of the other things we need to do is we need to remove the home controller from our controller references, because else we'll have loaded before we even get to the home controller. And now for the hard part. Once your application has passed the configuration phase, it's no longer possible to add controllers in the default way to your system. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to get a delegate to our register function of our controller provider. So that is what we're going to do in another configuration function. So our core module is going to have a config, and inside we're going to have a $controller provider. And this one, and what I usually do is on my core module, I add a function called register controller, and on this register controller function is going to be the controller provider dot register. So this is a function of itself, which I'm going to you can call it a form of caching, or I'm going to store it into a property on my core module. And another thing we need to change is within our home controller, we now get this module, right? And now we need to call register controller on it. And this is basically the only thing we need to do to get lazy loading going. So to prove this, we can look at our website, and when we reload, it states that the home controller is not a function and got undefined. Now when we go to home, we do get our home controller, and our home controller is actually loaded on demand. So these are the basics of getting lazy loading to work. You will find a lot of tutorials on the internet which separate all of these little blocks into different services and providers and stuff like that. But this is the basics. So if you understand what is happening here, you can refactor it any way you want to. If there is any need for further clarification, I can always write a tutorial on how to refactor this into a more modular system where you can actually make stuff happen in a more convenient way. But just use your imagination and go wild. Okay, thank you again for watching, and see you in the next part. Bye.